Hey everyone, welcome to day 5 of the 5-day challenge. You've made it all the way through to day 5. Um, the, uh, the learning will continue today with um, our onboarding checklist and helping everybody understand that if we we walk all the way through this, we change our mindset, we write a great ad that attracts a candidate that we're really looking for, that meets the bill, fits our culture, is able to perform in the role, and that we've done the phone screen really well, and they've moved through the interview process, and we make them an offer, and they accept, and we bring them in to the first day. Onboarding is the area that we can still have a problem and cause that candidate to not be successful. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm setting the stage for that. So I want to kind of jump into one of the questions that we got from the live feed yesterday that came in after the end of the session, and there were some questions around how many interviews should we do, what does that look like, and just some general questions. So I want to kind of go back through the interview process and the ideas that I wanted to share. I think you need to make it appropriate for your company and your culture. And you need to decide how you can navigate those interviews within a 2 to 3 week period. And being closer to the 2 week mark is better than the 3 week mark. We want that candidate to feel like we're moving them along, that that we know what we're doing, that we're looking to move forward and put somebody in the spot sooner than later. So that doesn't mean that we don't do our due diligence and we don't follow through. But if we put a position out there and we're attracting candidates, once one comes along that we're looking for, we want to have our process defined, and we want to have it internally set so that we can fill the interview spots. So what I mean by that is, you can have somebody doing phone screens. You may have somebody, some additional people doing interviews. So when you start to do the phone screens, that we should be looking for spots for the people that are going to be part of the interview process, and we want to make sure that they're available. So we don't want to like push somebody out a week just because one of the people isn't available. And everybody that we deem is important to do the interview, we shouldn't change your mind later. So think about that, plan for that in advance. And it might be just blocking off an hour for somebody that they get their calendar time back if the interview doesn't proceed. So think about it from as soon as we start getting phone screens, who's going to be involved, we start to block off that time so we can keep the time frame short. I think if we do more than 3 interviews and they're not significantly different, we might be overdoing it. I think that's sort of if you get into that 4th and 5th interview, we might be looking at things, or we may not be efficient and effective with our time. So we do the phone screen that usually is about a 10-minute a telephone call. And then, we can do a short interview where we look at resumes. We could do a longer form interview where it's a 90-minute where we go through the resume, we go through the assessment, we go through the role. These are the things that we need to decide, but we need to decide those before we start the process and really get clear. When I work with a client, we have that all mapped out. We know who's going to be part of it. We know we've been given instruction and made requests for who's going to do what, especially at the end. If we're asking an executive to come in to be part of the final interview and give that final blessing, if you will, we want them to be clear about what that looks like and that they need to be available as well. And the other question that came up was, should we tell the candidate we're interested? So I think it means if maybe, and it depends upon when it comes up. So if somebody's asked me early on, like, how did I do? It's like, you did fine. We have some other candidates to come along. I can't really give you a clear answer as to whether we move you along yet. right? So I'm looking to not evade the question, but I'm also looking not to make it a commitment. Um, but if somebody knocked an interview out of the park and everything else looks great, you might tell them, I really like what I saw. Really, I have a couple more of these to do, but I feel pretty good about moving you forward. So no promise, but that's what I'm seeing so far, and that gives them some energy, some belief that they have a shot at this role. So I think we want to be honest about this, and we want to be transparent, but we don't want to make the commitment unless we're really, 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 really like this candidate. And it's hard to do early in the process. Um, and the other thing is if we're going to have multiple people in the room, and there's a one candidate and we got three folks in the room, and we want to make that as intimate as possible. We don't want to make it terribly foreboding, but we want to make sure it's coordinated. So we don't want people asking the same questions. We want to have some, like, you're going to ask these kind of questions, you're going to ask these kind of questions, and you're going to talk about the resume, you're going to talk about experience, you're going to dig into some technical things, right? Excuse me, based on their roles, based on their level of expertise. So all important, but coordination is important. We want to be effective with that time. Um, and I don't like more than three people in the room. If we're going to have a bunch of people, that's fine to do a series of interviews. I have a client that brings somebody in for about half a day. They come in around 10. There's they do some tour to help them understand some of the technology. Then there's an interview. Then somebody takes them to lunch at a casual place where there's ability for people to have a conversation. So there's a couple of people at lunch there. Then they bring them back and they sort of finish up with a more formal interview. But this is explained in the beginning. This is part of their process, and they knock out a lot of their questions in that. And then they have to go and do a debrief. And I think that's one of the things that maybe didn't make clear yesterday. After this is all done, the hiring manager who's responsible for these interviews, they need to do a debrief with everybody that was involved, start to pull those notes together, share everybody's thoughts, and start to get a temperature on this candidate that they've interviewed with. And this is not going to be a lot of candidates, because we're discerning our way through. Once they get to that stage, there shouldn't be 100 of those. There should be a much more manageable number, depending upon the number of people that you're hiring. In the final interview, what we're looking for is, if we've decided we want to hire this person, that we should be able to say to them in that interview, whether that's the executive or the hiring manager, we're going to make you an offer. And before I do that, what I'd like to do is get an understanding is, if we made an offer that was everything that you're looking for, it fit the bill, the timing was right, would you be able to accept that offer? And that usually goes to a conversation about, well, it depends upon the offer. Of course, it depends upon the offer. Let's assume that the dollars were what we've been talking about, that it matches up with what you're doing. Is there anything that's going to stop you from moving forward? So what I'm looking for is, are they looking at another offer? Are they not really serious? Um, Often we'll hear, well, I need to think about it, talk to my spouse. Of course you do. Of course. That's fair. But if there is another offer, I want to get that on the table. I want to understand as much as possible what that is. Are they holding out for something better? What would make it better? What's their criteria? So before we give them the offer, I want to get a temperature on where they sit, what they're thinking about, and just make sure we're not just floating this offer out there just to make the offer. And there's no sense in wasting time if they're really committed to this. I just want to see, if you're in the same ballpark, I really committed to this offer. Okay, well, that sort of helps you walk away from this feeling better, because they haven't necessarily been honest with you along the way. So I think I'm just looking at my notes here to make sure that the questions that were asked, I'm addressing. Um, and really, the important part here that I think I left out from this was that we're not selling this role during the interview. We're being professional. We're giving them information about the company. We're giving them the good, the bad, the ugly. We're talking about how they're going to be managed. We're talking about the expectations for the role. If you got a hunting role, you got to tell them you're going to eat what you kill, right? You're going to go out there and you're going to have to hunt for people, and you're going to have to talk to CFOs. You're going to have to talk to CEOs, right? And those are the things that we want to share with them. We don't want to tell them it's easy. We don't want to tell them this is a great place to work. Other than just that kind of a statement, like, we're gonna help you understand what this place is like when we get to that point. If we get to that point, and of course, our culture is important to us, so we want somebody to be a fit. So we're going to ask you questions around that, and then we're going to share you some of the things that we think are important. But it's not selling the company and the culture. At that point, we're looking for a fit. And I think if we approach this where we're trying to make a decision, and then we need them to make an informed decision, that's the right way to look at these interviews and this whole process. We're trying to determine if this is a good fit for everyone. Because the last thing we want is somebody to come in, we spend the time to onboard and bring them up to speed and get them out there, and then they decide, oh, this is not what I thought it was. So we want to get that all out on the table through this process. And that should be part of the thinking of the interview, and who's going to tell that story and why. So that's why this coordination needs to be. We spend a lot of time when I work with a client about who's going to do what, why they're going to do it, what that sort of sounds like, what the story sounds like, and to make sure that it's not necessarily scripted, but it's structured, and that we're asking the right questions, or we're not asking the same questions multiple times, unless we need to ask the question a second time because we thought their answer was a little uncertain or unclear. And then we just say, hey, we asked this question before and we weren't really comfortable with the answer. Or we asked this question before and we weren't really sure we got the answer we were looking for. So I'd like to ask again, right? That gets their attention. That lets them know you're serious. And it's a fair question, because we're trying to really, like, maybe they're a good fit in a lot of things, but there was just one area that we were a little concerned about. So it's perfectly fine to come back and have that kind of follow-up conversation. Could be a phone call, could be part of a final interview. So, I kind of want to, think about what we've accomplished, right? Because, people make decisions about what they're going to do and if they're going to accept some of these ideas and bring this into the fold. And, the whole premise of this challenge and this training was to help us think differently about hiring salespeople, because the salespeople are different. If we're hiring salespeople the same way we hire everyone else, we're probably having some challenges, that we're not getting people that are hitting their numbers. We're having trouble holding those people accountable, or just the basic fact that if knowing what you know about the person after they've been with you for 6 to 9 months, you wouldn't hire them again. And a lot of that comes from, hiring them in the same way we hire everyone else. So it's how we think about this that's important. It's how we think about the whole interviewing and attracting of candidates. And this is the big push behind this challenge, is if nothing else comes through here, is that we need to do something different. And, what I've shared with you over the last 5 days is something different, something that works, something that's proven. Our assessment tool has a 92% predictive success rate of somebody that's recommended moving to the top half of your sales organization. Excuse me. Still a little under the weather. So, thinking differently about sales is effective in a lot of ways. I mean, how we go about approaching our buyers, approaching our sales process, but in hiring salespeople is another component. It's one of the 5 buckets of things that we look at and work with clients on. Salespeople. Do we have the right ones? Do we have people that can be coachable? Can they ramp up well? Do we have good sales management? Do they have good sales management skills? Can they coach? How are systems and sales processes? Are they effective? Are they the methodology there? Do we have a way to talk about our opportunities in a pipeline? The sales hiring is another bucket we talk about, and then sales leadership is the final one when we're dealing with a larger organization. That leader needs to be strategic in its thinking, but it also needs to be able to reach down and help the sales manager be more effective. So that mindset shift is important. The other part of STAR is helps us save time. We're not wasting time with candidates that just aren't going to cut it. Our tool, the assessment, really cuts through that. I mean, if we're not talking to somebody that's recommended, we're wasting our time. I don't care what the resume says. They don't have the skills. If you really fall in love with a resume, maybe you have to discern it. But if they're not recommended, I don't want to talk to them. I'll talk to some people that are worthy. If we have an economy that causes us to have a short amount of candidates, but that's just my policy. I've learned to accept that this works and hire better salespeople that are closer to the rock star status. The phone screens is another piece where people get they feel that it might be a little hard for them to change that approach, where we're really kind of just being really on point, being sharp, being, hey, we're gonna, I scheduled this for 15 minutes. It's probably only going to take 10. What I'm really looking for here is if I get an answer that I'm looking for, I may interrupt and cut you off. I don't mean to be rude. I'm just trying to be respectful of our time and the rest of the meetings I have today to go through this. So we want to tell them that. We don't want to just be rude, but we do want to take control, and that's letting them know that that's what we're doing at the beginning. And the good salespeople appreciate that. They know that they need to be sharp at that point, and they're going to put their best foot forward. That's the experience I've had. So we went through the interview. We kind of reviewed that. So I'm comfortable. I hope we're feeling that this is something that we can do. This is something that we understand. And we talked a little bit yesterday about a way to help you. There's multiple ways to help you if you're serious about hiring better salespeople. We'll talk about that towards the end today again. But if you want help, if you just need a little bit of coaching, there's multiple ways of doing that. So I would encourage you to reach out, go through your notes, look at the replays, and think about the tools that we've provided you. Right, you have everything you need to be able to go execute. And I'm excited for you to go take some new steps and new approaches to this. So let's going to jump into the slides here real quick, just to kind of set the stage about what we did the review. We're going to jump into some onboarding checklists, and then as I mentioned, we'll talk a little bit about the offer that I made yesterday. So I've got 4 checklists for you. Actually, I'm going to show you a bonus one, but we're going to look at what we should be doing pre-boarding. Like when we decide we're going to hire somebody, we usually have some time. So what do we need to do in those week or two that we're to getting ready for that candidate to show up? The critical questions that we need to address so that candidate can have success quickly and move forward. And it's not product knowledge. There's some other things that we need to focus on. And then an idea that we have around onboarding, graduation. It's sort of a little fun thing. It's a milestone. If they get through the onboarding process and do the things that you want, there's a couple of options that are kind of fun here. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about a checklist that sales managers can use to use questions that they can use along this process to make sure that the sales candidate, the new hire, is comfortable and is getting what they need. And it starts to set the stage for the coaching that sales manager is going to do. So let me pull this out of the screen and I'm going to share my screen. So here we go. So this is sort of the ultimate pre-boarding checklist, right? That I mentioned. And these are the things that we want to think about before we bring the candidate in for that first day. And I like to tell this story. There was a position that I had accepted close to 20 years ago. And it was during a really crappy economic time, 2008. And I was lucky enough to find a job. And I went through their interviewing process, and it was interesting. It was rigorous. There was lots of interviews. It felt like it was dragged out, but they were trying to be thorough, which I respected. So I got hired, and I was supposed to show up at a particular time, which was 9 o'clock on a Monday. So I show up at 8:45, and I'm sitting in the little vestibule of the office, not even a waiting room, just a cold little vestibule. And I sat there for well past 9, and then somebody came in and said, "Hey, the folks are running a little behind. We're going to put you in a conference room." So it was awkward to start. It wasn't a warm and fuzzy beginning. The vibe in the office was a little negative, maybe. And that was the normal vibe I learned. So I go in the conference room. I sit around it was well after 9:30, and somebody come in, and it was sort of the VP of sales, and he's like, good to see you. Appreciate you being here. So and so is going to be here in a moment to get you to start to fill out some of the HR paperwork, which I'm like, it's here. There's the envelope. I had that in advance, and copies of everything you need is all here. And he wasn't even aware of that. So there was a bunch of situations like that, and the HR person came in to review the file, and everything was there. I needed to sign a form in her presence. So it's after 10, and sitting there waiting again. The VP of sales comes back, and he says, "Hey, we have a desk for you. Let me take you over." So there's little cubicles. He sits me down in this cubicle, and there's no computer. There's a phone. There's a chair. There's some office supplies scattered about. The desk is actually a little dusty and dirty. And he handed me these 3 like textbook-looking things. And he said, "I have to run out to a meeting. And why don't you read through these, and then I'll check in with you this afternoon." So these were engineering books with lots of engineering formulas, and just a bunch of information about how electricity works and flows through low voltage, and how control panels work and such. Boring, right? Because I'm a sales guy, and I'm not interested in learning Ohm's law. So I sat there literally till about 4 o'clock, flipping through these books. I went to lunch by myself. No one came through. It was an awful experience. And had this been a better economy, I would have left, not come back, and started looking for another gig. So I tell you that long story to help you understand that if your onboarding experience isn't welcoming, isn't structured, isn't organized, isn't engaging, that you can lose your first hire, your hire immediately. And you see on the screen that 4% of new hires leave after the job on the first day. And I just described what that felt like. Had the economy been better and I thought I could have got a job, I would have been gone, because it didn't set up well. And it tied me. It was a precursor for what was to come. Had a successful run and career there, but it was the experience was accurate for what I was going to experience over the course of the next 10 years. So turnover happens quickly. So sometimes we lose them on the first day, first week, and sometimes it takes a month and a half, 2 months, and you can lose another 20 to 25% of your candidates, because we don't engage them. We don't get them to be effective, to help them learn the things that they need to learn. Good salespeople want to get out and talk to people. They don't want to sit behind a desk. They want to get out there and start talking to prospects. They want to go out and listen to other salespeople talking to prospects. They want to be successful. They want to learn about what they need to learn to go do their craft. And the people that are happy to sit there and sit at a desk and read books and not really be engaged are the people that you probably made a mistake hiring. And those are the people that we want to get away from. And that's what STAR is going to help you with. And these checklists here are to help you understand what you need to do to, when you do hire the top sales candidate, you do hire that superstar or somebody that's really good. Um, you got to give them the tools and the opportunity to go be successful because they want to ramp up quickly. So again, checklist before the candidate gets there. What do we need to do? That's what these lists are. So you'll have access to this in the replay, and you can go through, and this document will allow you to manipulate, change, and add to it. But as soon as we make a hire and we decided we're bringing somebody on, we need to have conversations with payroll, human resources, the leadership team, IT. We want to get their computer set up, their access to whatever internal software that you need. Like, they don't need to do it immediately, but if you've got 2 weeks to have the right things in place, so that when you show up and show them their workspace, there's a computer sitting there, it's active, their calendar is there, they can access their emails. Sales management, sales leadership can be sending them emails along the way, right? Their calendar is already booked up. That's what's necessary. And that's why we need to get these internal stakeholders brought in. So you may have some other folks that need to be part of this. There may be some security things that need to be done. Whatever that is, you need to get that engaged and start to work through with the deadlines that are important. I think this is a quote that is meaningful. The speed of management paces the team, right? So if we're not leading in terms of our management and our leadership, and we're not setting the stage and helping them move along the way they should, we're going to slow down effectiveness. We're going to slow down how quickly somebody can ramp up. And that's what this is about, is getting them ramped up as quickly as possible, but doing it well. So this is an email template that I share with some clients that we can send to their home email prior to them starting. That sort of sets the stage, lets you know you're thinking about it, lets you know what you got going on, what they need to bring, right? Just a reminder, right? And it's a touch. It helps them feel engaged and as part of the team before they are part of the team. There's another client of mine that what they do is they send this email out letting them know to be looking for the next day or two for a package. And they send a package out to the candidate, the new hire, and then they've understood by this point that the candidate has a spouse and they have 2 children, and the children are under 6 or 7 years old, right? So they've learned this, and they send this little swag box out to the new hire, so that person gets a T-shirt, with the company. It's like a fun little T-shirt, but they send out T-shirts for the rest of the family. They get the whole family involved. Like, this company's cool, right? They're thinking about the family, not just the person that's being hired. And they all wear the shirts. They take pictures. They put up in the social media, and they actually ask them to do that. To feel free to post it on your social media accounts, but we'd love you to send a picture back so we can put this up in they had a board in their lunchroom where they showed pictures of families doing things on vacation and such. Again, it's the opposite of the story I described to you, right? We're trying to make people feel welcome, and we're trying to make them feel like they're part of a team as quickly as possible. So things to request, right? Whoever this is from, we've talked to those people that we said that needed to be involved. Can we get the desk set up? Do they have the pens and paper that's necessary? Do they have the right workbooks? If there's any sales training things that need to be there, those should be available to them. Is their phone set up? Do we have a cell phone for them? Is that ready to go? Have you updated your website to represent that this person's part of your team? The sooner you do that, the better it is. The more welcome this person feels. The more organized you look, the more professional you look. If you use business cards, those should be ready, right? I mean, it's not a big complicated thing. You got to have the cell phone, your address already. The email should be easy to put together, and then you just get your people to get those printed. And it's still a thing. Salespeople still use sales business cards. You might not need 5,000, you might need 500 or 1,000 of them, but it's a thing that makes them feel like they did it. They go home and show their family. Um, I like to see the first couple of weeks on their calendar in their computer when they show up, that it's mapped out for them what they're going to do for the first couple of weeks. We should be able to tell them, this is how we onboard people. These are the people you're going to speak with. The first couple of days, there's somebody that takes them out to lunch. There's some training things that they do. There's some sort of welcoming pieces. There's a tour, right? Whatever it is for your company, it needs to be planned. And it needs to be on the calendar, especially for people that are of a leadership position that are busy. We need to get this on their calendar, and there should be flexibility, right? That they're there to support this new hire, and they play a role. And so get that scheduled and put that on there. Again, some things that you might need to complete. This is just it's not your list necessarily, but it should get you thinking. The calendar, as we talked about, the HR thing, the payroll thing. If you're doing direct deposit, what do they got to have? Do they need a badge to get into the building? Do they need security codes? And then all the time with the people that they need. Get them involved with the other reps, and have the reps take them out one of the days for lunch, right? Pick up the tab for, 50, $60 for them to go someplace and have a burger and chat, make them feel like he's part of or she's part of a team. So get all that in there. You don't forget about your CRM. That needs to be there. We need to make sure their name is in there. We need to make sure that it's integrated with the calendar, that the accounts that they're going to have to manage is already teed up and set up for that. This is going to take more than a couple of minutes. So let's not wait till the last minute to do that. And these are just some things to think about if you really want to be awesome. These are things that you can do. I mentioned the t-shirt thing at home, but whatever swag you have, it's cool for an upper level C-suite executive to go. It's like, hey, you know what, you're new hire, let's go have coffee. And let's go around the corner. Got a little coffee spot I like to go to, and just go sit for 30 minutes and have a conversation. You have no idea what getting that relationship started with somebody, a CEO, a president of an organization, general manager, what that really means to the candidate. It should be organized like that. And it should seem casual, but organized. And then you can do breakfast things, and, there's lots of videos that can be created, right? Use your imagination, get your marketing people involved. But these are the things that we want to think about before they're there. We don't put somebody sitting in the cold little vestibule waiting to get into the building. I hope that story resonates with you, because it was real, and it had a real effect on me. So these are some critical questions that you need to answer for the candidate to be successful. And this goes into another program that I do about messaging and telling the company story and giving them the right tools to have in their toolbox, or the right weapons in their arsenal, right? Whatever metaphor we want to use. But it is the responsibility of the company to give that information to the salesperson. We need to teach them how we talk about our company, how to talk about our product, what are the critical questions that we need to ask our prospects, how do we discern whether they are a good fit, who are the targets that they should be going. Like, we should be able to give them a list. Here's 100 targets that fit into your territory. These are the people that are ideal. Now, you're not going to close all of the business, but this is what they look like. This is where they are. This is where they hide. This is how we talk to them. This is the messaging. This is how we differentiate, right? That's the big picture. And I think it's really important that we understand that it's the company's responsibility. We don't want to leave that up to the salesperson to figure out, because they won't get it right, because they don't know. They won't ask enough questions, right? And if they got to ask those questions, they're going to get frustrated real quickly, because who are they supposed to ask those to, right? The sales manager, maybe they know. It'd be great if they did, but somebody's got to share that. And so if you don't have that, Really, let's get that worked out before we start hiring salespeople. And we have a program that we do with folks about messaging that isn't complicated. It isn't doing a big marketing plan, but it's like, how do we talk about ourselves? I'll give you an example. I work with a company that we sold fire alarm systems, and I competed against these companies like Honeywell and Siemens and Tyco, um, and they. I was a little 10, $15 million a year company. They could go out and do whatever they wanted. They could go buy jobs. So I had to differentiate myself. And just if you're commoditized, this will work. Here's a little tip that you can take to your sales manager if they're not on the call. I would say to these folks, you know what? 97% of what I do and what those big fellas do, exactly the same. 97%. It's all the same. So can I talk about the 3% that makes us different? Now, what did I just do when I'm talking to a prospect? I got real. I got their attention because I'm telling them we're just like these guys. We do the things. Now what's important is I talk about the 3% that matters to that prospect. And that's what I'm talking about. You got to tell them what matters to that prospect. Give them that information. I never got that. I had to figure it out. It took me like 2 years to really understand what those prospects needed and how I should talk about it. But once you do, that is a really powerful way to differentiate yourself. So get that right before we start bringing people on and be able to tell that story. So we want them to learn about the company story and how we differentiate. That's what this document is going to talk about, what I just said. So some of this is going to be reviewed. I don't want you to lose good quality people because we're talking about the widget and the cool features that everybody loves, and we're going to talk about what that does. Customers they're going to know more about your product than your new sales hire will, right? That's not how we sell, right? They're going to be invited in late in the cycle. The buyer is going to be more informed than the new hire is. So what do we do to talk about like how we fit, what problems we solve, right? That's really what we got to get straight. So that's got to be part of your onboarding. It's got to be done early. It's got to be done often. It's got to be repeated, and do that while you're teaching them about your product. Don't teach them about the product and hope they figure this out, because they won't, and it'll cause them to fail or take longer to get up to speed. So here's a way to look at this. What are the problems you solve, right? In the context of your prospect. Why are we better at doing that? Right. And it's not because we're smarter or whatever. It's like, what do we accomplish for that prospect? Right. How are we uniquely positioned to do that? And what is our niche in the space, right? We're not everything to all people. In my life, we were great at working with K through 12. We understood their needs. We didn't do a great job at healthcare. So I didn't I tried to learn about healthcare and try to navigate into that and get better at it. But my niche was the K through 12 market. And it was easier for me to get to the university level than it was to get into healthcare. So position ourselves properly in the market. That's the responsibility of the company to bring it in. Who's the buyer? Like the who? What do they care about? Where are they at? How do we talk to them? What's their concerns? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they on, do we network? Do we go to conferences, right? We get all this out and we start to help them see what the new hire is going to have to do. And you got to tell them, this is what that first prospecting call sounds like. I help CEOs who are frustrated with their revenue forecast being inaccurate, and they're just pissed off because the retention rate of new hires is so low. And I talk to a lot of CEOs, and the two biggest problems they're telling me are, right, we have to give that to the salesperson. Don't ask them to create that. Help them understand what that is, what your world is. If you're in the landscaping business and you're building these beautiful outdoor living space, what are those people worried about? They're worried about maybe not so much about money, but timing, about getting their vision right from in their head onto paper. Well, we're going to do a great job of listening to what it is that you want to accomplish. And then we're going to help you make sure that you don't do something that you're going to regret. We're going to help you with the missteps. We're going to help you with the permitting. We're going to help you with whatever that is. right? So we want to give those words to our new hire so they can get out there and have good conversations with people early, get some traction, and start to build that pipeline. Um, so, and again, I'm just diving into the sales process. I'm diving into these issues, the sales process and the methodology. If you have a particular, like we teach baseline selling, some people use um, Sandler, some people are using action selling. What doesn't matter. We need to be able to help them understand what that looks like. How do we navigate that? What's the language we use to bring a deal through the process? Um, so again, this sheet will cover the um, the things that we need to tell them, but then we want to give them clarity about what the expectations are. How are we going to test them on this? How are we going to make sure that they're learning this? What are those check-ins going to look like? Tell them, and then do it. Right? If you tell them that you're going to sit with them every Friday in the afternoon about what they learned that week and what their takeaways are and what their concerns are, you damn well better do it than just pretending that you gave a lip service and hey, we'll check in on Monday. Right? Monday comes and goes, and you lose credibility real fast. So this document really helpful for you to help you think about the things that you could do. Maybe you could do better. Let me switch. Just realized that I was not sharing everything that I thought I was sharing. So you're going to get these. So I quickly ran through this here. These are the critical questions. All of the pieces that I was talking about are here. You will have access to this document um, this evening, and it'll be in the workspace for you to go look at with the replays. So let me share one more screen. Here we go. Onboarding graduation. Sorry, folks. I don't have a good excuse for having this not lined up properly. So this is the one I showed you a moment ago. And so these are questions that a sales manager can use to check in with the candidate during the process, during the onboarding process, right? Whether it be weekly, monthly, right? We want to make sure that the sales manager is engaged. The hiring manager comes back if that's a different person. We want to help them understand that, this is how we go about coaching. This is how we go about creating accountability. This is the metrics that we're going to measure you by. So some of these questions are great to do, ad hoc. You can go for a walk, you can go for a coffee, because you want to get them to be thinking about the answers and to be clear, and give you accurate information about what's real. So you want to help them feel comfortable sharing honest thoughts and to be transparent about, like, I don't think this is working. And so you can tell them, you can tell the candidate that, we're looking to get better at this and we don't have this all figured out yet. So I need your feedback to help me as a sales manager make this process better for the next candidate that comes along. And it'll help me help you better if you can help me see where you didn't get something or you need more time. So give them permission to share with the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we have a list of questions here that are awesome to ask when somebody's relaxed and you've given them permission to share. But do they feel out of the loop on anything? Was anything surprising to them that they weren't expecting something, or they expected something that they didn't get? Right? These are all. I'm not going to run through all these questions and read them to you, but is there, later on in the process, is there something here that's still unclear to you that you want some more clarification on, that we need to come back to? And that's something that you need to ask a lot as we dive through the onboarding process and we work through it. they're not always going to feel comfortable saying, I don't get it. I don't understand. So you want to repeat some things. You want to do reviews. You want to um, make sure that they don't leave without clarity on it, and expect that you're not going to um, get it all figured out on the first try. It's just not possible for somebody to, especially if you got them drinking through a fire hose. There's a how do you say this? That they need repetition, and they need to hear something multiple times. So don't assume that um, they're going to get it when you say it once because you know it. That's not fair. So I mentioned an onboarding graduation process, or onboarding graduation idea. So define your onboarding process. Like, what do they need to get through to have the basics, right? Like onboarding 101 and 102. What do they got to have to be able to go out and have a decent conversation with somebody, right? You define what that is. Maybe that can be achieved in 30 days. Maybe that can be achieved in 90 days. I don't know, right? We're not working together, but that's something that we figure out. And then we design the onboarding process to meet that need. And then there's like the onboarding that goes on continuously for the next few months to make sure that it's all landed and that they get better. And there's maybe a mentoring program involved. So again, we like to help them understand the basics and build it from the ground up, right? Build the foundation, a strong foundation of what they need to learn. So there's things that we need to cover here, and you got to do a goals workshop with a new hire. Make sure that that you understand what they're trying to achieve, that you have alignment with what you need them to do. You want to be really clear about who you serve, who that ideal client profile is. We mentioned that a little bit earlier. The messaging I mentioned. What prospecting tactics work, right? As a company, we should know that we have a lot of success by going to these 4 conferences, and then we prospect those people before and after. We do really well with cold outreach to these types of people, right? And we work this through. We need to tell them that what they have to do. We got to give them the vehicle to go do that. The sales process. What do they have to master within the sales process? They should be able to do your prospecting through there. They should know how to enter new information. They should know how to enter a new sales project. They should know how to move them through, and they should be able to demonstrate this to you during the onboarding process, so that to get them graduated, right? Whatever the tech is, whatever that tech stack is, your CRM, your Asana, whatever you use, they need to be able to have that mastered within a certain period of time. You need to share your coaching style and how you're going to work, what models you use, what's important. We talk about performance is potential minus interference, and we use the GROW model to help navigate those conversations. But we're looking for interference of why somebody might not do something, and what those interferences are that we can rectify. So you need to be able to explain that to your new hire to help them understand what to expect from you and what you're expecting of them. Of course, you want to get them up to speed on product knowledge. They need to be an expert, but don't just spend the time there. Make sure we're doing all these other things, and tell them about the success stories that other salespeople have had, and be able to use those stories with some of their prospects and some of their customers, right? That's a big part of it. You can do that at lunches with other salespeople. They all love to brag. And your sales management, how are you going to do that? What are those KPIs? How often do you meet? What do sales meetings look like? What are those coaching sessions like? How does all that work, right? So these are all the steps that they need to understand, and then define your graduation requirement, right? Tell them what they have to be able to articulate, what they have to be able to do, role plays, positioning statements, writing up orders, whatever it is, the fundamentals to get them over the hump so they can do it. It might be 30 days, it might be 60 days. I don't know. I don't know your system well enough, but it needs to be quick enough so that they can get there. And I love to tell somebody, this should take you 60 days. And they come back and, hey, I think I can get this done in 45, right after they've gone into it for a week. Like, okay, well, as long as you master it, that's fine. You could do it in 44 as long as you master it. And then tell them what they got to do to demonstrate the fundamental knowledge, and help them get there, help them, coach them along the way, answer their questions, get them over the hump. And a fun thing to do is to give them a goofy little trophy that they graduated from onboarding, right? Some manufacturing companies have their people make up a little uh, trophy out of one of their parts or one of the part of their product. You can go to the trophy store and buy something small. It doesn't matter. Just make sure that we do something to give them a goal that they're excited about, that you can document and say, you got there, you did really well on this one. We need to work on this one, but we're going to graduate you, but we're going to focus on this going forward, right? Get that defined. The better you define that, the better off everybody is in this process. So I hope those are just really a series of checklists that are gonna help you set the stage and define success. And I go back to the story I told you. Don't do that. Don't have that person, because they're going to leave. They're not going to be excited, and you're not setting the standard that you want to set. There's a lot of time and effort and money that goes into this, so let's do it as well as possible. So again, I've given you the tools, the scripts, the access to the assessment, access to me, the way to write a job posting, the frameworks, the scripts, the templates. You've had all of those. I reviewed this with you yesterday, like where I do this with the folks, because some of you got it, you're going to go do it, and it's going to be great. Some of you are going to be like, I got it, but I don't know if I can get my team to do it, right? I need to coach my team, and I don't have time to coach my team, and I don't know this well enough. That's fine. I'm willing to help, and we have a few different ways of doing it. I'm presenting one here for you to contemplate. There's a lot that goes into what we do, and we do it systematically, and we do it every day. So we can help you break this down. So, it's not a $20,000 activity. We can make this offer to you for $69.97, and we're gonna help you hire one salesperson from soup to nuts, from the role configuration to helping you think about your onboarding. I'm not going to write an onboarding plan for this, but I'm going to help you think about what you're doing now and what you're missing. I'm going to help you understand your sales process. I'm going to help you design the phone screens. I'm going to help you with the interview process. I'm going to be in those if you want me there. I'm going to be doing the phone screens, right? I'm going to be demonstrating what this sounds like. I'm going to help you do this. I'm going to do them with you, right? And that's to me the best way for you to learn, is to go experience this, try it, and have some success, and it feel different when you're working with a candidate and you realize this person doesn't have what I need, and that's okay, right? They're going to find the right thing. There's no reason to bring them in just because you're having a conversation with them. So again, our assessment tool, different than other tools, right? We talked about DISC and predictive index and Myers-Briggs and all of those, psychological caliper. They're great, but what do you want to measure? What do you want to measure with your sales hire? You want to know if this person has the will to sell. Do they have the right, sales DNA? Do they thinking properly? And do they have the basic skills? And nobody has this perfect. So if we can help you identify where their strengths and weaknesses are, and then you hire them, and we can convert that to a program that helps your sales manager know this person's going to struggle here, this person's going to struggle there. And then we know that in advance, and we can start to look for it and support. We can make our salespeople better. We can make our sales managers better. We give them a fighting chance, right? So 92% of people that are recommended from our assessment, and you do a good job with the process, and you do a good job with onboarding, 92% of them rise to the top half of your team. And I would say that if you're part of this challenge, you're part of this training, you might not have that sort of success rate. And the other thing that I think is just as important is that if we hire somebody that's not recommended, 75% of them fail quickly in 6 months. Sad thing is, most of those people don't get fired. They stick around, screw things up. create mediocrity. So with today's session, since we're sticking around here to the end, I'm going to add a couple of bonuses to this offer that we're making for this challenge. We'll give you 2 1-hour sessions with the entire team to help them start to think about the hiring process differently. So I'll cover some of the things here that we've covered together to help them get the mindset right. And what that sounds like depends upon your team, right? We'd have to have that conversation. But I'm going to get in there and help you with getting them ready to do this. And then we're going to do the right configuration of the role. That's really important to make sure that we get this dialed in, not just for what we believe the sales skills need to be, but what they need to do for your role, right? A hunter, account manager, farmer, right? Whatever that is, we're going to help you get that right. And then we're going to give you 6 months access to the Helix Sales Academy. There's a bunch of training modules in there, some videos. I put some of my really good podcasts in there that before they get released, they pop in there. Any new courses that I create are put in there. Sales plays or playbook is in there. So you'll have access to that for free for 6 months if you sign up with this. So what does that sign up look like? There's an application process. We don't bring everybody on. What's important to me, and I don't mean that to be disrespectful, but I need somebody that's really serious about making a change. I want somebody that's committed to working with the team or having me work with their team to make the changes necessary and to go through that process, because it requires some effort, requires some discipline. So got what you need, you could go do this. And I'd be excited for you. I'd love to hear successes that you've tried, and great. You can ping me on LinkedIn or post that on LinkedIn. That would be awesome. And the other ways that you can reach out to me or listen or pay attention to things that I do, I try to provide a lot of value to my audience and the community. I have a podcast. It's Sales and Cigars, and I'm really focused on CEOs who are want to tell their story, right? When I'm bringing CEOs in that and to be able to talk about what their role is, what they do, it's really a fun conversation, right? I've just started switching my format to this, and I'm having a lot of fun meeting CEOs and understanding. It's giving me a better direction on some things that I can be doing for the long term. So that's it. You can find that at salesandcigars.com. You can go to our YouTube station under Helix Sales Development. I'm on LinkedIn on a regular basis. You can go pick up my book, 7 Critical Mistakes CEOs Make with Their Sales Team. You can buy it on Amazon. I'm happy to do that. But if you want a copy of it, reach out to me. Tell me you were part of this challenge, and I'll send you a copy. That is just part of this piece. I'm really excited to hear your stories and your successes. Share those with me either on LinkedIn or via email. It's walter@helixsalesdevelopment.com. I'm out there, easy to find. Wish you well. Have a great weekend. Thanks for sticking around. Let me know how this helped. Thank you.